Tonight, the class is entitled Women Build the Bet HaMikdash. Women obligated are to build the Bet HaMikdash. I want to show you some of the texts that we're going to be reading today. You see that in your screen. Women building the Bet HaMikdash. As you see here, we begin with the Mishnah in Kiddushin, the Mishnah, the Masechet, that discusses the laws of marriages. And let's read, Kol mitzvot haben al ha'av, anashim chayevim v'nashim pturot. Any obligation the father has towards the son, men are obligated, women are exempted. For example, teaching Torah. V'chol mitzvot, and all the obligations of the father and the son, echad nashim v'echad nashim chayav. So that the obligations to honor the father applies to both of them. V'chol mitzvot aseh shezman gerama, and this is the key concept that we're going to be discussing today. Any aseh means, as you know, there are two kinds of mitzvot, positive commandments and negative commandments. All the positive commandments are the commandments that tell us what to do. All the negative commandments are the things that forbid us what to do. Now, there are two types of positive commandments. Commandments you can do anytime, and commandments that you can only do at a certain time. For example, to return a lost object, you can do it anytime. Day, morning, night, beginning of the year, the end of the year. But there are some mitzvot that are called zeman gerama, time-bound. Time-bound means that you must do them only at certain times and on other times. For example, the mitzvah of lulav, you can do it during the day and not during the night. To listen to the shofar, you can do it during the day and not at night. Putting on tefillin, you can only do it at night, at the daytime and not at night. And that is why in all of these mitzvot, they can only be done at certain times of the day, and they are not any time. Anashim chayevim v'nashim pturot. Men are obligated, but not women. Women are exempted from these mitzvot. There are some interesting questions as to why. We'll discuss a little bit further. Why is it that women are exempted? One of the rabbis explains, Abu Draham explains, that women have usually familiar obligations, both to the children and to the household. And if they would be obligated to go to the synagogue or do some other mitzvot that would require them to leave the house, that would be neglecting the home. It is also for the purposes of peace in the house. You know, that there should be no competition, that a man comes to eat, and the woman would say, "I'm sorry, I can't. I am davening now. I'm putting on tefillin, doing things." So in order to avoid this, there are several explanations why the Torah gave the women this exemption. So again, any mitzvah that is positive, that you must do, that can only be done in a certain period of time and not other times, like the daytime and not the nighttime, all women are exempted. Those are called mitzvat aseh she'azman gerama. In English, positive commandments that are time-bound. That means limited in time. Women are exempt. V'chol mitzvat aseh shelo azman gerama. Any mitzvah positive that does not have a specific time, as we explained. For example, to return the lost object, echad nashim v'echad nashim chayevim. Men and women are equally obligated. B'chol mitzvah lo ta'aseh. But any negative commandment, whether it is time-bound or not time-bound, echad nashim v'echad nashim chayevim. Women and men are also obligated, with the exception of these three examples. One is to shave, which women are not forbidden to do. In certain parts of the body, the face, men are obligated to not shave them with scissors, with knives. They can do it with scissors, as we do when we shave. But to give a certain kind of getting a haircut that was a kind of applicable to men, women are exempted, and also that the obligations of not to contaminate the dead. Although these are negative commandments, and they're not necessarily time-bound, nevertheless, in these three, women are also exempt. So let's go now into a fascinating law. I'll bring you the law first, and then we will discuss where the source of this law is, which we believe is the source. En boni Bet HaMikdash balayla. The Bet HaMikdash, which we have to build, and incidentally, remember, the Bet HaMikdash is something we're going to build, even though there are certain traditions that depict that the time Bet HaMikdash is going to come all completely built from heaven. This is not the regular interpretation of the rabbis. The common interpretation is that we have to build the Bet HaMikdash. Hashem is going to make it possible for us. You know, it's going to come from heaven, that we will have the opportunity. Given the circumstances of today's world, it would be only a heavenly gift that we'll be able to go to the Bet HaMikdash and rebuild it. So, in any case, it is something we must do. So, the Rambam says in Mishnah Torah, we do not build the Bet HaMikdash at night, because it says in the Torah, Ubeyom Hakim et HaMishkan. This is a parsha that we read this week. On the day that they erected the tabernacle, Ubeyom means on the day. They, Bayom, like you mean, the daytime they erect, Velo Balayla, and not at night. As I'm pointing here, my pointer in the Hebrew, please notice that, of course, you can read the English sign. ועוסקים בבניין מעלות השחר עד צאת הכוכבים. The construction must take place from dawn until coming out of the stars. But at night, you have to stop. והכל חייבים לבנות. Everyone is obligated to build. ולשאת בעצמם ובממונם. And to support the construction with their bodies and with their monies. Anashim v'nashim, men and women, as they did in the Mikdash Bamidbar, as they did in the sanctuary, the tabernacle, when they built the temple. If you recall, the Torah gives us in this section number 7, how women actually came to build the Mishkan as well by their contributions. Men and women, all whose hearts moved them, all who would make an elevation offering of gold to the Lord, came bringing brooches, earrings, rings, and pendants, gold objects of all kinds. So we see here that women participated actively in the building of the Bet HaMikdash, of the Mishkan, and therefore the Rambam says that women also are obligated to do the Bet HaMikdash. It's interesting here to note that the Rambam says that this is a mitzvah, a commandment. And he says that this is what happened in the tabernacle. There is, however, a big difference. In the tabernacle, they did it voluntarily. There was no command. It says, anyone whose heart gave him the heart, wanted to do. So how is it possible that he derives a commandment, an obligation, from something that happened to have been only voluntary? So some commentators explain that the beginning was voluntary, that the first tabernacle was built with the heart of people. But once it was built, then it became an obligation to everybody to always have a tabernacle in case this was destroyed or when we needed to have a different kind of structure. So since it is obligatory, it becomes a mitzvah. Okay. Now, we have to go, what is the source of this law? We understand men have to build the Bet HaMikdash. Where do women come from? I mean, after all, the idea that women are going to donate money and stuff, but they have to build it. Where is it? And to make it a mitzvah sounds a little strange. So there was a rabbi, Rav Chaim Palachi, and other rabbis follow as well. Rav Chaim Palachi was a rabbi in Izmir. I want to introduce him to you. For some of you, this may be the first time that you are meeting this man. And I want you to pay attention to him because it is a magnificent person. Apologize that I'm trying to find out where this is. This Rabbi Chaim Palachi was born in Turkish rabbi. Chief rabbi was Izmir, author in Ladino and Hebrew. His name was Hacham Bashi or Gaon, perhaps one of the most important figures of Turkish Jewry from the time that they came in 1492 until the beginning of the 20th century. Chaim Palachi was born in 1788, died in 1868. Interestingly enough, there was a Palachi who was a pirate from Morocco, from Fez, and apparently he was also a descendant of this pirate. And knowing his history is actually, you can say that he was a very, very strong leader in Turkey. People remember him for the centuries. Okay. Okay, so we'll continue with this, with our sources. Rav Chaim Palachi finds the source for the obligation of women to build the Beit HaMikdash in a very fascinating story that we're going to learn today. Okay, it's a long story. For the benefit of learning, we're going to do this in English, but you have this Hebrew text next to you as well. The story concerns the history of Herod. Herod was a descendant of the Idumean people, not Jews, who were converted forcibly by one of the Hasmonean kings, Alexander Yanaus, about the year 100 before the Common Era. Eventually, this man became a convert in a way, although some called him only a Hebrew Canaanite slave, and the eyes of the rabbis, his legal status was that of a Canaanite slave. But because he was very close to the emperor, the Roman emperor, probably at that time Caesar, it's not the emperor, the king, the Caesar of Rome, Julius Caesar probably, Herod rose to great prominence. And by the way, if you go to Israel today, you will see a lot of the castles of Herod that Herod built, especially Masada, Herodion, the whole city of Caesarea, a lot of great things that he did for the Jewish people. But he was a king. He was not supposed to be a king because he's not a Jew. And he was not even as a slave. The legal status of him was a Canaanite slave, which has some of the characteristics. He has to observe certain mitzvot and have the same status in terms of obligations as women. But in any case, he was not supposed to be a king. In order to solidify his position, he was so that nobody will actually touch him, he decided to kill all the members of the Hasmonean family. He was actually in charge, alone. All right. Let's continue. The story goes, Herod killed everybody. He also killed all the rabbis because he was afraid that the rabbis were going to actually rule against him, but he was not supposed to be a king, and that would undermine his authority. But he left one rabbi alive, and that rabbi was Baba ben Buta. And the reason he left him alive, interestingly enough, was that he wanted to have some rabbi who would be able to give him some advice. And consequently, he actually kept him alive. Eventually, he even wanted to blind him. He wanted to get him alive, but didn't want him to even see. And so now we go to the text. Herod placed a garland made of porcupine hide on Baba ben Buta's head, which pricked his eyes out. Very cruel man. One day, Herod came disguised to Baba ben Buta to test him. And Herod said to the Rabbi, Master, says, Chazimar, I have the Bisha. Look at this terrible slave who's becoming a king. Look what he's doing. Try to see whether he will reveal himself. It's kind of a trap. Baba Buddha said, what should I do to him? Herod said to him, the master should give him a curse, so he will die. Baba Buddha said, no, you're not allowed to curse the king, not even in your thoughts. That's from Kohelet. So Herod said to him, he's not a king, he rules illegally. Baba Buddha said to him, okay, even if he's not legal, even a rich man you're not allowed to curse. It says, do not curse a rich person in your bed chamber. That's also Kohelet. So even if he's not a king, I cannot curse him. So, and even if we're only a leader, I will not curse him, because it's written, do not curse a leader among your people. So obviously you cannot curse him. So Herod said to him, oh, but the law says that a leader has to be a leader among your people. That means a fit Jew who acts as a member of your people. In other words, not only his status has to be that of a Jew, but he also has to be behaving like a Jew in accordance with the Torah law. And this one does not even do the deeds of your people. He doesn't deserve respect. Curse him. Baba Buddha said to him, no. I'm afraid of him. So even though he saw that his legal arguments would not work, so he said, I don't want to do it. Herod said to him, there's nobody who will go and tell him, since you and I are the only people there. Herod will never find anything about it. Baba Buddha said to him, no. It's written, a bird of the sky shall carry the sound, and that which has wings shall tell the matter. In other words, there are no secrets. We're going to talk here, people will know about it. Sounds a little bit like America in the time of leaking. Herod said to him, oh, you know what? I am Herod. If I knew that the sages were so cautious as you are, I would not have killed him. Now he regrets having killed all the rabbis. So he says, what is the man's remedy? In other words, he says, what can I do to get forgiveness, to repent for all the terrible things that I did? So Baba Buddha gives him advice. He said, he who extinguished the light of the world is the rabbis, the scholars of Torah, because they bring light to the world. So they are the light of the world. You killed them, you extinguished them. As it's written, the mitzvah is a lamp and the Torah is light. So what you should do is occupy yourself with the light of the world, which is the temple. As it says, with regard to the temple, all the nations shall flow unto it. And the word naharu, nahar, is like the word menorah, means that it is light. So the temple is considered to be a light. So you put out a light, now bring a light to the world. And there are those who say that this is what he said to him. He who blinded the eye of the world, as it written by reference to the sages, that the rabbis are the eyes of the congregation, then he should go and occupy himself with the eye of the world. The temple is the eye of the world. As it says, I will desecrate my temple, proud of your strength. Ezekiel did a lot of your eyes. So that means that the temple is considered to be eyes. So in any case, we see here Baba Buddha gives him advice how to repent, how to do better. And therefore he says, go and build a Bet HaMikdash. And he went and built a beautiful, beautiful temple. There's a beautiful story, we don't have time to analyze it now, that he said, I'll read it to you quickly. I have to ask the Roman government. So maybe they will not allow me to build the Mikdash. So Baba Buddha said, okay, look, you know what? Send an emissary to Rome to request permission for the reconstruction. However, the agent should go very slowly. Let him take a year before reaching Rome. And he should be a year in Rome, stay in Rome for another year, prolonging the negotiations. And then afterwards, he should return slowly also, take another year. So between all this time, you have 3 years in which you can destroy, demolish the old structure, which was falling apart, and very poor, and build yours. So Herod did the same thing. So 3 years later, the Roman government sent a copy to Herod saying, if you have not yet demolished the existing structure, do not demolish it. If you already demolished it, do not rebuild it. And if you already demolished and have built a new one. So that means this is what wicked slaves seek permission only after they do as they wish. They understood that this was a trick. If you are proud of your weaponry, your book of lineage is before us. We know that you are a slave, that you are not a noble Jew, and we will reveal that to the world. You're not a recha, you're not a king, you're not the son of a king. So those, they put him down if you build the Bet HaMikdash. Nevertheless, it was said, and this is what we're going to go about this beautiful Bet HaMikdash. It was said, he who has not seen Herod's building has never seen a beautiful building in his life. Those of you who were able to be in Masada know what incredible structure it was. You can imagine what must have been with all the baths and the mosaics and the gold and the paintings. What kind of temple a place it must have been? That's what I say. Who has not seen Herod's building has never seen a beautiful thing in his life. So how did he build it? Rabbi says with stones of white and green marble, marmara. Marmara. There are those who say that he built it with stones of blue, white, and green marble. Alternate rows of stones sent out an edge. And
grocery list makes shopping so much easier. Like this one. We got eggs, milk.
Please keep your microphones muted. So in other words, what he did was, instead of making the rows straight, one block of stone on top of another, he made one little bit in and one little bit out, so that it would be, you will not see the cement or the plaster in between them. It's a beautiful idea, magnificently architecture. And then he said, wanted to cover with gold. He was so rich. The Rabbi said to him, no, leave it. Do not cover. It's nice to see green and blue. So it looks like the waves of the sea. Okay. So now we discuss, he gave him advice to make the temple. Let's go back into the main issue. Was Baba Ben Buddha correct in giving him advice? And what is the question? Here you have an evil man, a wicked man, killed a lot of people. He was a slave. He was really a usurper. Why do you help him? He didn't deserve to be helped. And we learn that another person who helped also a wicked king was punished. And now the Gemara is asking the question. How did Baba Ben Buddha do this? How can he give advice to Herod the wicked? God decreed that he should be punished, and by doing the good thing, he is in a sense undermining God's plan, because once a person does something good, like building a temple, God has to repay him. So he has to forgive him. So he sort of, in a sense, force God's hand. And Rabbi Yehuda says, some say it was Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi who says, for what reason was Daniel punished? He was punished because he offered advice to Nebuchadnezzar. He shared a harsh prophecy with him that he was going to be defeated. And the king said, what should I do? So he gave him advice. He said, let my counsel be acceptable to you. Redeem your sins with charity, and your iniquities with graciousness to the poor, and there will be a lengthening of your property. So prosperity. It was in some way, he gave him some years of salvation. So all this came upon Nebuchadnezzar. That means on the end of 12 months, only after a year was the prophecy of destruction fulfilled. So that means that he was forgiven in some way for 1 year. So we see here that it's bad to give advice to a non-Jew. Why? How is the Baba Ben Buddha gave an advice to this Herod? So Gemara says a distinction. Two answers. If you were to say that a slave like Herod is different, Nebuchadnezzar was a non-Jew, that you're not allowed to give him advice. But a slave who is obligated to do mitzvot is different. And this is a mitzvah to build the Bet HaMikdash. To build a temple is a mitzvah. And therefore, he was obligated to bring the mitzvah as well. So therefore, the advice was necessary. A second answer was the temple was different, because without the help of the government, it could not have been built. So in other words, there was an exception. So one explanation is that he had to give it because he had a mitzvah to do. And the other one is that he had to give it because there was no other choice. It was an exception. Let me concentrate on the first answer, which is the source of the main part of this shiur. The Gemara is saying that a slave like Herod is different because he's obligated to do the mitzvot. What mitzvah is this? The mitzvah of building the temple. Rabbeinu Gershom, one of the earliest rabbis of the 10th century, says that this case is different because Herod was a slave who's obligated in positive commandments as a woman is obligated. It means commandments that are not bound by time. A woman is also obligated in mitzvot that are not necessarily bound by time. So just as a slave is obligated to build the Bet HaMikdash, so women are obligated to build the Bet HaMikdash. Chaim Palachi suggests that this text that we just read in Bava Batra is the source for the law that says women are obligated to build the Beit HaMikdash. The Yad Ramah says specifically the obligation to build the Mikdash is one of those commandments that are not time-bound. And we actually see here the the screen with the story of Rabbeinu Gershom. See, Rabbeinu Gershom is the 10th century, and he was a famous halachist, a famous rabbi in Germany, in France. He is the one that he made that famous synod around the year 1000, in which he instituted various laws and bans, including prohibiting polygamy, requiring the consent of both parties to a divorce, modifying the rules concerning those who became apostates under compulsion, which means he allowed them to come in, and prohibiting the opening of correspondence, and laws of privacy. All these are laws which he instituted in his place, and he became what is called Me'or Agola. He was the light of the exile. He was born in Germany and France, Metz. And it's eventually, Rabbeinu Gershom was he had a son who unfortunately converted, became a Christian. Rabbeinu Gershom observed the laws of Shiva for the son. Apparently, he said that he had submitted to baptism to escape persecution, and afterwards he returned to the Jewish fold. He is the author of the Zechor Brit Avraham that we say on Yom Kippur, or Rosh Hashanah, or Yom Kippur, which it says, you remember that the holy city and its regions are turned to shame and spoils, and so on. Rabbeinu Gershom was famous that he was in prison, and the king placed a very high rule on him, a ransom, and he refused to let the people pay it. He told them that they should not pay it so that they should not get used to take the scholars. Okay. We continue now with our text. Tosafot, I'm sorry, the question now becomes, the building of the Beit HaMikdash, as we saw before in Maimonides, as you recall, the actual text says clearly that we do not build the Beit HaMikdash at night. So we said before that any mitzvah, positive commandment, that has a time limitation, you can only do it at a certain time and not at other times, is a mitzvah that is time-bound. So it's a mitzvah that is time-bound, like tefillin or talit. Women are exempted from talit and from tefillin for that reason. Why should they not be exempted from this as well? And that is a question that many rabbis have asked concerning this law of the Rambam. So some give some explanations that perhaps the Mikdash would be an exception. We have to understand that all the mitzvot that can only be performed in a specific time, the women are exempted. So how could they be obligated in the building of the Mikdash? And what is the difference between mitzvah tefillin or talit and this mitzvah? So like before we continue with some of the answers, I'm going to allow you to give me some suggestions if you would like to participate and ask the question. So let me stop for a moment. And some various answers are given to this. One of the answers given by Rav Chaim Palachi himself is that there is a difference between the actual building of the Beit HaMikdash, which can only be done during the daytime, and the donations and the preparations for the building of the Mikdash, which can be done at any time. So when the Torah says, or the rabbis say that the Mikdash can only be built during the daytime, it doesn't mean that people cannot weave or do other things preparing for the Beit HaMikdash at night. So that is one answer that explains why women are obligated in that part of the Beit HaMikdash, not in the actual building, but in the preparation. It's a little bit of a weak answer because it says women are obligated to build. There's another explanation given by the Ture Even, another rabbi, who says that it's an interesting concept. The mitzvah that we're saying is Zman Gerama, time bound, is a mitzvah that really lives only for that time, like the daytime. And when it comes nighttime, there's no more mitzvah. The mitzvah disappeared. If I, for example, missed, for example, here, counting the Omer for the whole day, I cannot make it up. That day is gone. If I don't put out tefillin one day, I've missed that day. I cannot make it up the next day. It's gone. The mitzvah ends when the day ends. So that is a kind of a mitzvah. Every day that I do a mitzvah that is time bound, every day begins a new mitzvah. So this mitzvah of building the Beit HaMikdash doesn't disappear at night. It continues. And that's what perhaps that is called not a mitzvah, shazman gerama. And I want to give you a fascinating answer given by some rabbis. The Sfat Emet brings it, but I think that it is also something that appears in other rabbis as well. I want to share with you this very interesting principle. We know that circumcision is a mitzvah, as we discussed before, that is applicable to men and not to women. So the Gemara in Kiddushin, look at source number 8, ask the question, men are obligated to circumcise their sons. But how do we know women are not obligated? How do we know? How do the brother and mother is not obligated to circumcise her son? As it's written, Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God commanded him. The Hebrew says, Kasher tziva oto Elohim, to him, which means to him and not to her. So the fact that the Torah emphasizes the word him is to tell us that women are not obligated. So here we learn that women are not obligated to circumcise their sons. So the Tosafot on that page, that's an interesting question. Why do we need a specific verse to exclude women from the obligation of Milah, since that is a positive commandment? I want to show you, by the way, the actually, if I can, the text Tosafot. Here it is. V'imtema lama li kra. Why do I need a pasuk to tell me him and not her? It is clear that I could derive the exclusion of the woman because the mitzvah tashesh magrama is a mitzvah that is determined by time, because it has to be done on the 8th day first, and women are, and that's time bound. And also, there's another answer that says that can be done only during the daytime and not the nighttime. So it's obvious that women should be exempted from this mitzvah because of the time-bound mitzvah. Why should the women? Why do we need another text to tell me that women are exempted? And that's the question that we're going to be discussing. Tosafot asks the question and says that, and in a way, I want to explain a little bit with the way that the Tzfat Emet explains it. The Tzfat Emet explains as follows, that what is the definition of a positive command that is time-bound? And it's a little bit of what we said before from the Turei Even, similar idea. A mitzvah tashesh grama means that the mitzvah is connected only to the day. When that day occurs, you have to do this mitzvah. But there is a difference between the act of the mitzvah and the duration of the mitzvah. Let me explain. The mitzvah of tefillin is only on that day. And every day is a new mitzvah. The mitzvah of circumcision happens once, but the effect of the mitzvah is forever. It doesn't end at night. It doesn't end on the 8th day. It's a mitzvah for the whole life. The act alone is one day. The effect, the result, the purpose is for every night and every day in the rest of the life. That kind of a mitzvah that lasts more than the daytime is not considered to be zman gerama. It's not considered to be time bound. Although the performance should be done in a certain period of time, the mitzvah itself lasts forever and has no time limit. Let's explain this briefly, because this is a very interesting concept. There's a difference between the mitzvah that can, when it's performed, but their goal is not limited in time, and mitzvot which are both performed and the goal is the same as the same day. Milah is limited only in the time to perform it, but its purpose is forever. It's not limited in time. Shofar, lulav, is only for that day. And that day you're supposed to blow the shofar. But it doesn't have lasting for the next day. Milah is not limited. And therefore, the Sfat Emet explains, as we the Turei Even discussed before, that the whole idea of mitzvah tashesh zman gerama does not apply to milah, to the circumcision. In the same way, and that's the answer now of the Sfat Emet. It says, building Beit HaMikdash is similar in that sense. Although it is limited in the form that it can be performed, it can be done only during the daytime. But the purpose of what is to build a Beit HaMikdash is going to last forever, for a long time, exceeding the time in which it is built, exceeding the daytime. And that's why we need the Beit HaMikdash also for all the time, to offer the sacrifices. Also to light the menorah, which light, there are many mitzvot of the Beit HaMikdash that are at night also, not only the daytime, light the menorah, the burning of the limbs. So the Beit HaMikdash is not limited in time. So therefore this cannot be a positive commandment limited in time. And since it is not limited in time, positive commandments that are not limited in time, as we discussed before, are obligatory on women as well. Let's review it again. Any positive commandment, all positive commandments that are non-time bound, both men and women are obligated. The building of the Mikdash is in that category. And I want to end with this thought that the building of the Mikdash also has as a purpose to bring the presence of Hashem closer to the Jewish people, that we should experience the closer with Hashem. It's called Ashrat Shekhinah, the depositing, the hovering of the Shekhinah, divine presence, among the Jewish people. And therefore, the building of the Mikdash is in itself something that is not just for one day, but it is throughout history. And therefore, it cannot be defined as a simple mitzvah that is time-bound, like the shofar, or the lulav, or the tefillin. I now ask if anybody would like to discuss quickly. I gave you, another explanation of the Yad Ramah, which we will not have a chance to discuss. The Ramah that also says that this is connected to the building of the Beit HaMikdash by women, also is from this Rabbi Meir ben Todros Halevi Abulafia, the Ramah, who lived in Provence in medieval Spain in the 13th century. All right, now I'm going to ask you if you would like to have any questions or any discussion about what we discussed.